Good. Right, let me check. Can anybody who has headphones on hear me? That is a challenge, yeah? Okay. All right, fantastic. So thank you all very much for coming out. So for those of you who don't know us, we're Advancing Analytics. We're over just kind of in the corner there behind the wall. We are a specialist data and AI company, and our primary focus is on insurance. Now, kind of going through what we wanted to kind of touch through today, I've got about 8 minutes to take you through what is normally a couple of hour session that we would run with our customers. So we'll run through a few bits and pieces. What I would say, if you're interested in knowing more about us, we're primarily known for being incredible at insurance, for data and AI, in particular on Databricks. We're one of 2 elite partners for them in the UK. Now, when I think about what we do when it comes to looking at data and AI, we primarily look to kind of solve a couple of different things. And I think it can be quite neatly encapsulated by, the very famous Donald Rumsfeld's quotes around, there are those things that are known knowns. There are those things ultimately when we look at what we do, they're the things that we know about, right? There are those known unknowns to say that there are things that we know that we just don't know, right? Those kind of risks that we need to try to think about. But then there are fundamentally those things that we know that there are unknown unknowns, right? There are things that as we think about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to understand the world of risk around us, there are those things that we just don't really know about, right? And that can easily be kind of pushed forward when we start thinking about what that means for data and AI, in particular, right? When it comes to those known knowns, when I think about the problems that we typically solve, they are fundamentally around, well, what are the things that we're looking at, right? It is, what's the propensity for somebody to renew a policy? What's the propensity for something to be fraudulent, right? It's these kind of problems that arguably for, the bulk of the people here are kind of table stakes, right? For the sorts of things that we do. Then kind of moving on, those kind of unknown unknowns, really starting to think about how we start getting smarter in terms of what we do. And that's where we start seeing we're moving more into a kind of agentic world. And then that last one, which is fundamentally focused around, how do we try to understand our world undercover without knowing about, some of these bigger key events, so sort of like geopolitical instabilities, et cetera, that we need to think about? And how can we start thinking about leveraging data and AI to get us to the point where we're able to do that? So in terms of typically, if you're thinking about the kind of known knowns in insurance, they're ultimately, if I think about, what we typically do, we do one of 3 things for most people. We either try to make you money, save you money, or keep you out of jail, right? Those are typically the 3 things that we're always trying to solve for in data. And so what you can see up here, right, are a lot of the things that, again, we would kind of argue today are table stakes. So if that's, personalization and how you're kind of, again, going from a lead to a policy, et cetera. If that's understanding and segmenting your customers to understand your risk, to understand the portfolio that you have, during underwriting. If it's being more efficient and understanding what premium drift is, right? These are very simplistic ways in which we're leveraging data and AI to ultimately support customers in trying to move things forward. And there's a lot of very interesting kind of ways that you should be thinking about a lot of the things that are on here. And I would always argue that a lot of this was probably done already. And then when we're trying to think about how we try to handle ultimately those kind of known unknowns, right? How we're using data and AI to better understand what we ultimately don't know is ultimately where we can start leveraging things like agentic processes to really start building out a bigger view of the world, right? So ultimately, we start thinking about things like, will it happen, right? Moving more into that kind of descriptive to say, well, when will that happen? How will it happen, right? And why did it happen in that particular way? And then starting to build on this kind of reasoning and acting framework to understand, okay, well, as we start seeing this again and again and again, how do we think about scaling what we're doing? And this is where we start really thinking about agentic. And so as you start thinking about things like, straight through processing, which tends to be, especially for personal lines, the kind of, biggest thing that I end up talking to people about, is how do we think about, putting agentic processes across that entire kind of value chain so that we're able to very quickly respond to customers. We're able to give them an incredible service. We're able to pay out claims, faster because we know what we're doing and we're understanding the kind of risk there. And we're also being able to see that, it's a customer and this payout is safe and not fraudulent, right? And so it's those kind of unknown unknowns really that we're able to solve for by thinking a bit wider. And then the last one is really the most challenging, right? It's how do we respond to a lot of these kind of microeconomic shifts, and how are we really trying to think about, what we're doing so that we, ultimately we can avoid something that not only is a potential, risk to the business, but also potentially as a material impact, our share price. And so a lot of that, again, if you just look at, extreme weather conditions and patterns in the UK, if it's, increased flooding, causing a lot more property damage, or if it's, increased droughts also causing property cracking, right? There's a huge amount of trying to be able to understand what weather is happening and being able to really think about how we build solutions that enable our customers to be more informed, to ultimately then think about how we reduce the potential impact of, increased claims. And some of those things are incredibly simple, right? Having very hyper-personalized emails that go out to your customer base to say, in your area, we know there's going to be, an increased impact of one of the latest storms. Our recommendation is to, bring your garden furniture in or put something in a shed, right? How to do basic things to secure your properties to ultimately reduce your ability to have a potential claim. And then therefore, reducing the amount of work for our teams, reducing the amount that we're having to reserve, etc. And ultimately, hopefully offering a much better level of service. And then also the kind of real way that you begin to really solve a lot of these problems and really start holistically thinking about this is ultimately building out what is essentially a digital twin of your kind of world undercover, right? And so what we would always recommend is kind of covering a couple of these kind of key points, right? Which is building in early warning systems, right? So doing anomaly detection. So we're able to see, are we paying out more than we thought we would be, right? Are we seeing an increase of cover? Are we seeing an increase in cyber, etc.? Going kind of running through these systems. Then using exploratory models, right? Things that are using unsupervised approaches to really deeply understand what you're doing. Beginning to mine unstructured data that you potentially haven't been able to look at before. Using synthetic data to really stress test scenarios across your business with things like simulation modeling, etc. And then embedding AI into your governance loops to ensure that everything we're doing is ultimately well governed and kind of well controlled. And so when we think about those kind of known unknowns, ultimately when we look at the world in which we operate in, we're able to kind of solve for some of those with low to mid complexity, machine learning models, right through to looking at where we're bringing in agentic processes, and then ultimately where we're able to extend this with a kind of digital twin and a digital world undercover. And so my ask to all of you today would be, as you're in these sessions and as you're thinking, try to think less about yourselves as an insurer using AI and more as an AI business, who fundamentally understands insurance. If you want to know any more, we are over there in the corner. I would love to talk to you more, and thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Can I have a show of hands if everyone can hear me, please? Yeah? Oh, perfect. Loud and clear? Good. Hi, Yogesh, Joshee, GenAirate Technologies. This was our first event last year, and we've been going 18 months. And when we came here last year, I think we were a team of 4, and now we're a team of 22. So we're doing something right. And what we've done is we've built a Copilot for underwriters. And what we did when we started this journey was the first conversation we had was with one of the Lloyd's market syndicates. And we sat around with the exec team, the chief underwriting officer, the CEO, the chief risk officer. And we said, what are your biggest issues? They wanted to say, how can AI help us? Because AI, in 12 months, as you know, it's just been going crazy. And at that point of time, it's like, how can AI help us 18 months ago? So we started talking it out. And one of the things we found was that the underwriters were spending a hell of a lot of time deciphering the submission data. And most of it's non-standard. So we're talking to the property guys. They're saying we're getting all types of property submissions, sometimes with 500 locations, sometimes with 3 locations. The broker says one thing, one of the documents says something else. and we only buy in 20 to 30% of what we see. And it takes us a long time to get to the ones we want to see. So we said, okay, great. Why don't you give us some test data? So we got some test data, and we did pretty well. We thought we were doing really well, but then they started sending us real edge cases. And that's when we started getting issues. And at that point, we hired an underwriter from property who'd been underwriting for 50 years. So he's a 68-year-old guy who's doing a lot of peer reviews. He still works with us. Nick Ianson's his name. And he sat down. We spent 4 days literally like a vacuum cleaner in his head, just extracting his brain and trying to understand how he looks at submissions and why he picks certain data fields, when he knows something's right, when he knows something's wrong. Almost like understanding the art of underwriting. And you can argue that, you know, AI is a little bit of an art because it's all about the attention and the context of data. So over that period of time, we've built a product now that ingests submissions, and we're getting on the recent test run, we're getting 98% accuracy. So, which is for us, it's great. We would have been happy with 90% accuracy. But what we are doing is we're getting 98% accuracy. We were giving 100% truth. And let me explain that. So we had a submission the other day, a Mexican risk came in, and it showed a limit of 1 billion Mexican pesos. Sounds like a lot, 1 billion. I'll just say 1 billion. And when we looked at the summary from the broker, it showed that it was 500 million. So we thought immediately, we've got it wrong here. It's the wrong data field. But then our product was saying, hey, it's 1 billion, and the source of the data is from PDF number XYZ. And we looked at the PDF, and the 500 million was for last year, and for the renewal, it was 1 billion. So the product was right. I mean, it could have prevented a human error. Another thing we put into the product is geolocation. So when I say geolocation, we did a PhD study, and we're welcome to give you the white paper on our findings. And what we found was that certain maps are better for certain locations. And the reason we got to that was we heard about a particular use case where an underwriter had seen a risk, and he used Google Maps as usual, and he saw that the location was 500 meters away from a lake. Had he used Bing Maps, he would have seen the location was 50 meters away from a lake, and that case resulted in a $2.5 million loss, which was totally avoidable had he used the right map. So we've put in multiple amount of maps in our solution. So effectively what we're doing, we're getting the objective data, which is the data from the broker. We're putting our context in. So we've built data dictionaries, we've built process flows to understand how to extract that. And we've run a bunch of edge cases through there. And we've fine-tuned that edge cases mostly through prompt engineering and some rules as well. I guess I should use my slides, but anyway, that's just us as a company. This was kind of like the ingestion challenges and the benefits. And as I said, the 3 levels of data we're using, like the objective data, which is the stuff coming in. The subjective knowledge is interesting because that's based on how an underwriter wants to see a risk as well. So we've gone a long way in the last 18 months. We have a reasonable sized team. Some of the best value we've had in our team is bringing in young, recent graduates or people with maybe 1 or 2 years of experience who have brought in, and they've learned a lot. I guess working for a startup, they get the opportunity to learn a lot because we let them experiment. We have no choice. They have to experiment. It's almost like clinical trials for us to get to the right model. So we believe we've got a really cool Copilot for underwriters. In terms of any underwriters out here or anyone from carriers, for you to test it, it's really easy. You know, we just give you an environment, a secure environment. We sign an NDA, and you just upload some of your submissions, and you see if it's giving you the results you need to see. So there's no integration. It's a very easy POC and a very easy test. And depending on your business and the scale and the size of it, we can then talk about scalability. But it's been, for us, we've managed to onboard a bunch of customers. We just brought in our 4th customer in the States as well. So we're in a great place. And I guess we don't have a Q&A here. I'd love to ask if anyone has any questions, but we do have a booth just in the AWS zone. So we've got a demo running on there, so you get to see the product. Please come over and see us. And thank you for listening. Hope you're having a great lunch as well. So thanks very much, guys. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well? Perfect. And by the way, bon appetit to those who are finishing their lunch. We didn't want to interrupt that part, but still nice to see you all, and it's great to be presenting today. So I will try to be very brief about the history of the company and like our values, and I will focus more on the exact case study today. So ELEKS, we were founded in 1991 by a family of scientists back in Ukraine. So we started from product, and we were not outsourcing company at the beginning. But because the actual product became very successful and it was a big change for Ukraine, so it's a product called Dakar. It's in energy sector essentially, and it's helping energy providers to understand where do they distribute energy points. And essentially, right now, when the war is happening, they're able to really predict how to better distribute energy between all the energy points. And this application is still in use. So imagine it was developed from 1991, and it's continuously being modernized, and it's still bringing lots of value. And we're even building right now more data science on top. So that's a little bit of the history and why it's important, because for us, building the right product for the right audience, for the right users is really important. So we really dig deeper into the purpose of the product rather than just developing something. And we're helping our clients to really understand the connection between the business and the actual, like the idea that is on the table. So if we speak about insurance industry, just to give you the overlook, so I manage energy as a first, basically industry that we were playing at. But then historically, since basically I think it was 1996, we started working with banks and also insurance. So these are the areas where we play the most. So basically we help with underwriting, policy management, risk management, claims processing, and also operational efficiency and growth. And I will focus a little bit more on the actual case studies in the next slides. So this is the value chain that we actually cover, and basically more than 20 years in this. And we are developing really complex solutions, managing lots of different data, and also managing security as well. So this is one of the case studies. Unfortunately, this is anonymized due to the privacy of the client. They were happy for us to talk about it, talk about the history, but unfortunately, we are not able to reveal their name. It's one of the largest healthcare providers in the US, and you can see the journey with them. So we started with developing platform as a service for them with just 8 people, and since 2018, basically 6 years of the journey. So today, I'll focus only on one case. So basically, that is a mobile app that we developed together, just to give you an understanding of the scale of it. So first of all, it's 3.5 million of users. And if we talk about monthly users, this is around 740K. So you can only imagine how many data do we process, how many stakeholders we have in all of that. So just deeper a little bit into this. So we are dealing with members basically of the company, right? We are also the regular users, pharmacies. Also, they have different partners as well. It's a network, and also their salespeople and account managers as well. So if we speak about the overall solution and what value it brought, so essentially, with this app, they were able to change the way how people actually improve their health, because they have multiple different categories in terms of the the medicine that you're using, and also the essential sequence, when do you need to get it, and what price, right? So essentially, if you open up the app, you're able to see which pharmacies provide the prescribed medical drugs, right? And essentially, after you're able to understand, where am I buying it, at what price, is it far from me? The user experience changed completely. So you have the freedom to choose where to buy it, how to buy it, and the overall user experience just became more transparent. Also, they see clearly what is the amount of money will be covered by the insurance, what will be paid by them. So everything became super transparent and quickly available for them. So the users became like more happy, they started using it more, and the overall tendency of users per month were growing tremendously. So in terms of the data, so essentially there is different data sources from the database in terms of the pharmacies itself, right? So it's a real-time data that is being processed within the app. And there is also really like another like module that we built about this price transparency. So it's also up to date, the real-time tracking of that too. And also reminders. It's really nice that people are getting reminders if they need to get it on time. So they will get a reminder and they can smoothly order it from the nearest pharmacy and not hustle about not having it on time and then have influence on your health. Yeah, so this is just like a summary about the overall benefits and outcomes. So I think it was really about the customer experience here, like how can we still provide the same service, but in a different way, in a more friendly way, where the users are not only taking care of their health, but they are enjoying the overall process, right? So we all understand that it's connected a lot about like how do we feel about the whole process. Yes, and overall, they enjoyed like the feedback we got that they actually, the users were spending less. So because they had the opportunity to choose and they had the transparent information without looking up themselves, they were saving time and they were spending less. And as an insurer, they had more users that were more active, obviously. Yes, so just very last quick points about how ELEKS cooperate with companies like this one. So we have a fully developed automated tool. So for instance, if you're a company, you're an insurer that wants to work with us, and we have a project, you have an access to a portal, a client portal, where you can see what is the delivery progress, how much budget you spend with us, what is the quality, what is the engineering metrics. It's all integrated with Jira and with other tools like DevOps, Azure DevOps. So this is real-time data that you have the access to. It's not all of the, like, from my experience, at least, I'm 10 years within this industry, and I know that not a lot of vendors are fully showing all of this information. But for us, as we have so much experience, we know what we are doing. We are very transparent with our clients, and in order to also have a better user experience for them, not to always ask or like schedule meetings, you can just go there and see everything that you need to maybe report to your manager or something like that. And just to maybe summarize, another thing is that we also offer financial guarantees. So, if you are signing a contract with us, you will have financial guarantees on top of the guarantees on the actual delivery. So we are really like transparent about like what are we aiming to achieve together, and we ensure it with the actual financial guarantees. Yeah, so that's it basically from my side. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoy the whole conference. And if you want to visit us and ask some more questions, we're just on the corner on the left side of this room. Thank you so much.
Testing, testing. Testing. Yeah, coming through okay. Grand.
Yeah. Anytime you want.
Super. Okay, grand. And how am I going through the slides?
Oh, there's a clicker up there.
Okay.
Run away. There you go.
Cool. Forward.
Skip down the lecture afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Have we got? So if I can do that, is it going to go that? Brilliant.
Yep.
Super. And then back is back. Super. Okay.
Brilliant.
Grand.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah. Super. Good afternoon, everyone. Can quick audio check before I kick off? Can you all hear me? Grant, you can see me. Thumbs up. Fabulous. Well, thanks for having. My name is Ben Hewlett, Chief Revenue Officer at DQPro, and today I'm excited to talk to you about the hidden cost of bad data. So who are we? What do we do? DQPro, data monitoring platform built specifically for specialty insurers. We close the loop from detection all the way through round to resolution, sitting across data, but critically operations teams, providing our customers with a full audit trail of who, how, and when data issues are fixed. Why is that important? Because unresolved data issues permeate through the business and can cause significant downstream impact, particularly when it's consumed by actuarial teams, finance teams, claims teams on a daily basis. So what's our story? We started in 2016. Our co-founders had a vision for a tool, a bit of software that could run these checks in real time across our customers' databases. Our partner Brit shared that vision with us, and we conceived version 1 of DQPro. Fast forward 8 or 9 years, we're now working with 25 global specialist insurers, half of the Lloyd's market, and that 25 includes half of the top 10 biggest global specialty insurers in the world. And in working with those 25, we are monitoring the data behind 24 billion in gross written premium. And so that got us thinking. We're probably better placed than anyone to hypothesize and speculate on the hidden cost of bad data within our industry. Across those 25 to date, we have identified 2.7 million data issues and counting across the entire customer base. But I'm going to park that 2.75. I'm going to come back to that number later, so don't forget about it. But for now, I just want to highlight the value of DQPro. I want to share this story, which is one customer that we had who ran one check and overnight identified a potential loss of £5 million. This I'm happy to talk about afterwards. This is an end of quarter check identifying a discrepancy in a claims fund. That's the kind of value that we're talking about when you're running checks against your data. But Ben, surely not every check is identifying 5 million of potential loss. You're absolutely right. You have a whole variety of different rules that are running different checks on different databases. So what does that scale look like? And what do we mean when we say bad data? And surely not all rules are created the same. Absolutely. If we just consider impact for a minute, you've got impact at the light end of the spectrum, where it might just be a typo on a end of month report, minimal impact, not really consumed by the wider team. But then you've got the heavy impact. It might be a data issue, many data issues, which in the eyes of the regulator demonstrates poor governance and data controls within the organization. This isn't sensationalism. Some of you I know back in 2022, one insurance carrier was fined a 7-figure sum by the regulator for just this, not having the correct controls in place. So it's a very real risk and value. Okay, so that's the kind of scale of impact. What are these types of checks that you're running, Ben? Well, a typical carrier using DQPro is running anything from 200 to 300 checks on a daily basis. And they can be all manner of things. And I've just got a couple of examples here to highlight what we mean when we say checks or rules. One example is a YOA mismatch, where the premiums are allocated incorrectly. Another example is incorrect financials, maybe in relation to the company and leader share. And then lastly, policy mismatch codes, which might result in poor financials, reporting, and modeling. All very different in their nature, all very important in their own right, and I'm sure you'll tell me all very important in terms of demonstrating or keeping on top of and ensuring that nothing slips through the gaps. So, Ben, that's all well and good, but how do we get to the cost? That's what we're talking about. Well, this is obviously part of the challenge, because there's a number of things that impact cost. What the type of issue that's been identified, when it was identified, by whom, how long it's been left unresolved for, the teams that have consumed that data in the meantime. And from our position, what we see is that on average, across all the checks are running, our customers are putting a value of £65 per issue. Now, don't take my word for this. Our customers are doing this today. This is a photo from one of our recent customer user forums where one of our customers stood up and presented these exact numbers to all the other DQPro users in the room. These are the salespeople of the data world that aren't no longer just sat in the back office running reports and emailing it to people. They're extrapolating data, building dashboards, bringing it to life for senior stakeholders. They're going around the organization, promoting establishing data stewards in different corners of the organization, promoting the benefits of getting data quality right at source to prevent downstream calamities. And those that are really ahead of the game is where they've built the culture that data quality is a whole, everyone's accountable for it. Everyone's got a role to play. This isn't back office reporting. So to finish, I'd like to draw you to a couple of case studies of ours, both taking value from DQPro in two very different ways. One is Liberty. They were running a typical check they were running was a YOA mismatch check, which when we calculated it was coming to a saving of 3.5 FTE days a year. Now on the surface, that doesn't sound like much, but when you consider, as I said earlier, that the average carrier is running 200 to 300 checks, you scale that across 200 checks and you've got yourself a saving of 700 FTE across the year. And that's before we've even got to the business, the cost, the business impact, or the risk avoidance value as well. And secondly, I'd like to touch on Markel. These have been long users of DQPro, using it in Europe and in the US as well. The big win for them is being able to go from 3 weeks to 30 minutes for audit preparation time. As I mentioned at the top, DQPro provides the full audit history of how, when, and by whom data issues were resolved, which in the eyes of a regulator gives you everything you need to satisfy their demands. So I'd like to come back to that 2.75 number that I mentioned at the beginning. Using the maths of £65, when you take 2.75 million, times it by 65, we're hypothesizing that we've saved our customers to date a combined total of 180 million across all organizations. Thanks very much for listening to me. I hope that was insightful, maybe gave you some ideas. If you'd like to speak further, please find our booth just behind the back here and be happy to chat more. Thanks very much for your time.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for attending our slot. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to have your dinner and get that out of the way and won't fall asleep. I'm going to give you a quick short run through of what we do. My name is Tim. I work for a company called Cynozure. We're a consulting company, and what we really specialize in is getting you guys to high impact by using your data. We work a lot with a lot of industries, a lot of sectors, a lot of different companies. And one of the challenges we see frequently is people focusing on capabilities. They're focusing on building platforms, they're focusing on data culture, they're focusing on data management. And they're really struggling to get returns from their data investment. We call this roadie, and the companies that are really struggling getting returns from their data investment often get scrutinized by their CFOs, their operations directors, and ultimately, quite a lot of people get redundant from their jobs as a consequence of this. We see a lot of companies, however, that are doing this really, really well. And there's a lot of companies here today that really focus on impact and output. And the companies that focus on impact and output really embed everything they do into the business process. So data becomes part and integrated into their business. Everybody in the data team is lined up around priorities. Outcomes are measured throughout the process, and there is adoption of data into the business at every point in the customer journey, the operations experience, underwriting, or whatever that company may be. I suppose I've painted a picture of what's good and what's bad. We're here to help you guys on your journey to becoming excellent at delivering outcomes and impact through data. We do this through what we call impact thinking. And impact thinking is almost rethinking your portfolios of how you use data and focusing on the outcome first. This is our flywheel of how we think about impact thinking. And ultimately, it's a series of steps that you would take and a journey that you go on to really deliver outcomes for your business. Focusing on the business priorities is obviously number one. OKRs and KPIs that drive your business, that really matter to your business, are absolutely crucial. We believe that data and decision products, rather than dashboards and projects, will drive a value that can be then adopted and made into the operations of your business. It's only worth doing these things if you measure the ROI of these things, return on data investment. You'll hear it over and over again. It'll become more of a thing. It's taking the measures of return on investment that your CFOs want and adding data to that to make sure that everything you spend on data, whether it be people, process, or technology, gets measured and delivers actual impact to the business. Once you've measured it, once you've understood where you're delivering the impact, then you need to scale it across your business so it becomes part of your operations. And then the cycle goes around. And we believe by delivering impact thinking and using your data to do that, you can make a massive impact on your OKRs and KPIs in the business. This is the obligatory before and after. Hopefully you guys will recognize the before of where you've come from. The after is where we like to take people, and the people who do this really, really well really make a difference to the KPIs of the business. Products and portfolios, real data and real integrations into business processes, not just dashboards that are reported and forgotten about, not just dashboards that are sitting there and underutilized. This is about really embedding data into business processes and making a difference. Scaling this not just in one part of the organization, but all across the business, in every aspect of the business, whether it be claims, underwriting, returns, whatever that may be, making sure that data drives that. And the measurement, we're all in data. Data should be measured and can be measured. It's not just intangible benefits. It's about telling that story by the actual results that you actually drive in the business. We've been in this game for about 10 years now, and we bring experience across multiple sectors. We work in insurance, and there's a couple of clients up there, but we also work in a lot of customer-focused sectors, which we believe really drives and brings a lot of benefit to this sector in terms of the way it's transforming things. We've delivered lots of data strategies focusing on impact and outcome. We've delivered lots of data platforms, the usual ones, Snowflake, AWS, Azure. We've done hundreds of dashboards, but those dashboards have been embedded in processes and really make a difference to the organizations that we work with. And then the quality of the data is absolutely crucial, and delivering the quality of the data so that people actually trust those dashboards. We put in place the approach to impact thinking that we put forward is very much about focusing on the outcome and improving the data as you go to drive real, credible, tangible data management practices that really get used. I've talked a lot about how we go about it, and this is very much about what we do. So we're a consultancy company. We've got a strategic arm. We focus on where can we get you to, how can we transform your business, what's the right plan for doing it, what is the roadmap. Very much about designing AI solutions, scoping out new products that are going to make a difference. We've got a technical arm as well. We've built multiple platforms and multiple technologies, all with outcome and use case focus. And then we transform the business. Businesses aren't wanting data that's just going to sit there in a silo, a bucket in the corner. They want transformation. They want it embedded and adopted by their by their users. And that's the most crucial part. That's the hardest part that we have to deal with day in, day out. And we're real experts at that. I appreciate this is a very wordy slide, but I suppose we've helped insurance in a number of different areas. Very much the challenges that you guys have, you'll see here recognized in these 3 columns: strategic and organizational challenges, cultural, operational challenges, and technical challenges. And we can and have helped in a number of these different places. We're really proud to be a very forward-thinking, positive company with B Corp. We've won a whole load of awards, which we bring to the party when we partner with you guys. We also provide a community, which is really, really positive way to help increase the knowledge and sharing of data transfer across the industry, across the sector. We bring great people together. We meet once a month, once a quarter, and drive leadership capabilities across the business. Finally, I'd say we do the CDO Hub, which I mentioned already. We've got a masterclass in impact in AI. I believe that is now gone, but there's another one that's in January as well. So please scan that and sign up to those things. Finally, as a bit of an incentive to come to our stall and have a chat to us, we're giving away chocolate. If you fill out the scorecard, you'll receive some chocolate in return. We also, earlier on today, we ran an AI masterclass in one of the rooms over there. And we had some cards which helped prioritize AI and agentic AI use cases. We have some cards left. So if any of you guys want to come along and pick up these cards, they help you plan out and think about your roadmap for agentic AI. And with that, I say thank you very much for listening to me. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, I'm just going to talk for a little while Chris comes up here and plugs his laptop in. This is me filling in. So coming up now, we have Chris Daplyn from Vector 8. He will be followed by Alison Farrand of Snowflake. After that, we have Francis Hemingway at SEA Partners. And the final presentation on the supplier showcase this lunchtime will be Kirsten Duffield at Verisk. And look at that, absolutely perfect timing. I can now hand you over to Chris.
Okay, so really delighted to introduce Vector 8. This is very strange not being able to see anyone in here. Anyway, so we are an AI transformation company, so we're focused on AI in the enterprise. We don't bring a product as such, so we don't bring an insurance product. We bring our expertise and some IP. So we talk about being a next-gen transformation company, which means bringing service plus software, so we do bring our own IP. We look at consulting and delivery, so bridging the gap to identifying the right opportunities and building them for you, and then bringing vertical industry expertise alongside horizontal AI expertise across the full AI value chain. And then AI underpins everything we do. We are purely focused on AI solutions for the enterprise. So we have a firm conviction, and we talk about being specific AI. So specific AI really is us, and the reason we don't bring a product is because we really believe it needs to be tailored and transferred to your business. So an AI strategy that delivers on your business goals, a modular architecture that's future-proofed and not locked into models or locked into a black box that you can't see, and agents that are tailored and trained on your data, than your systems and your processes. And the idea for us is that you own your AI as your own competitive advantage. And I'll talk about how we do that in 1 second. And just a snapshot, we're pretty heavily in financial services. We've only been going since 2024, but built a very strong base in both insurance and banking and regulated industries, with a few other smaller industries as well. But we operate across Switzerland, the UK, and France. So our approach and how we help you get to the right solutions. So one of the main thing is making sure you've got a specific strategy that fits your business goals. We have a whole process that we go through, but you could also, again, everything we do is modular. So there might be parts of this that are really relevant for you in terms of understanding the maturity of your organization, being able to do an opportunity analysis and find the right use cases, being able to bring those into a strategic alignment and make sure that which ones are going to actually drive your business goals and your impact. How do you link it to your business strategy and not just do AI for AI's sake? How do you do that? Use case prioritization, design your target operating model and governance and how AI will work, and also then understand where you've got to have any gap in capability and build your roadmap for the future. But then what I really wanted to talk about today was that how do you architecturally and build a blueprint within your business that enables you to deploy AI at scale. And this is sort of a very simplified version of how we think about deploying AI in the enterprise. So it's not a platform, although it looks and it's all modular, but the idea is this is a really a scalable framework that you can use with any of your partner suppliers in terms of how to build AI across the enterprise. So at the base is a model management platform, which we bring our own IP. We have our own, but there are other model gateways on the market. Ours does some pretty cool things, but I'm not going to go into all of that today. But that's a way of calling LLMs within the business, but it also provides guardrails, governance, prompt storage, etc., and dynamic routing to be able to route calls to the right model. The reason this was really important is as AI scales within your enterprise and more people are calling on the models, what you want to be able to do is optimize for cost or performance depending on your goals. So if a small model will do, you don't want to be locked into a large language model always calling either OpenAI, Anthropic, etc. In the middle part, that's what we call the AI engine. So that's where you have sort of modular components, which we call accelerators. Again, we bring, or you can use your own accelerators, which you turn into skills. And the skill bit is really where we refine it on your business, your data, and your usage. And then agents orchestrate multiple skills. And again, I'll give you an example of that in a minute. And then all of that integrates into your interface and your application. So whether that's in your existing applications, whether you build a specific bespoke front end, we've got our own that we can put in there if you want a new front end. But the idea is that a lot of this operates headless and integrates with your existing systems. I've talked about the model management platform, but it ensures model independence, forces governance, enables you to do model evaluation, so being able to A/B test models against another for a particular purpose, and canary deployments, etc. We talked about AI building blocks in that middle AI engine, and this is where we bring some of our own accelerators. Again, we deploy these as code in your environment so that you own them and are able to build and use them in the future in different ways and build on them. But we do things like product recommendation engine, a lead broker matching, being able to do RAG document knowledge source, so being able to ask information of documents, but also a hybrid agentic RAG where you need to find information in multiple sources, be that online, your own store, etc., and bring back answers. We've got accelerators around quality control, around planning, around data anonymization if you want to use that data for future things. So these are all just modules that we bring and we transfer to you, but help us build AI solutions for you faster and more efficiently. So when we apply that into the insurance world, we know that AI is going to transform the full value chain. We know that we can use AI in both in product design, in advice, in underwriting, in your customer support, in claims management, portfolio management. So we'll look at how we can bring in different AI skills and supports to really support you across all areas of your business. But what we normally say is start with one area and go deep, rather than lots of little AI solutions in different places, where you're not going to get the incremental value of being able to put them together and then start to automate all workflows. So if we look at that as an example, let's do a deeper look at underwriting. So you start with your interface, and again, this is following that AIS blueprint principle that we talked about. So you have your your user interface, your existing data and tools that you need to integrate with, and as you go through, each of the different AI building blocks can then impact an agent which orchestrates actions, always building with a human in the loop as well. And I know I'm going way too fast for you to really get this in full detail, but sort of starting to look at how we can build modularly. So you can start with one of these things. Let's just have a look at being able to do information extraction. So being able to get customer documents and then automatically get unstructured data into structured data, all of the terms and all of the things that you're interested in into your existing underwriting platform to enable you to make better decisions. That could be one module, and it's just in that submission and data extraction. But that could speed up and create much more efficient underwriting process. But as you move through, you can start to build more and more modules that sit within your underwriting workflow. So at the point you get to almost fully automated workflows, but with core places where the human is in the loop checking. So what we're really looking at is removing that manual work, to really revolutionize the way that you do underwriting and provide much better performance. So our AIS blueprint and how we would help you build, it helps you with a build versus buy decision, so you can integrate with existing tools but also build new ones. You build what's needed one step at a time. You can replace components so you're never locked in to a particular vendor, and then flexible orchestration so you can create more and more autonomy as you move. And then obviously it's safe and future-proof, so centralized governance. You can easily update and maintain your models so you're not restricted to particular models, and avoid vendor lock-in. So be specific and maintain your differentiation. Look at AI infrastructure that can be more leveraged across broader business. Those AI modules that are used in underwriting, if you build them and own them, you can also use them in claims with a bit of configuration. So to get started, and I know I'm over time. So 1, identify your pain points and differentiators and prioritize those. Deliver small and fast and build your platform one step at a time, and measure and monitor performance and then optimize. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're on. Hello everybody, my name is Alison Farrand. I'm a solutions engineer at Snowflake. And so today I've been set the challenge of explaining to you what is Snowflake and giving you an insight into a demonstration within 8 minutes. We'll see how we do. It's a very scary countdown timer over there. So I'm going to have to put this up just for legal reasons, but because we've got 8 minutes, we're not going to spend too much time on it today. So what actually is Snowflake? So Snowflake, or what we call the AI Data Cloud, is a platform that allows you to store all of your data, whether that's structured, unstructured, or semi-structured data, in a single platform. So your entire business can actually sing off the same hymn sheet. We're a fully managed platform that allows you to work cross-cloud and cross-region, so on Azure, AWS, and GCP, and allows you to tap into loads of different workloads. You might have heard Snowflake was a data warehousing platform back in 2012 when we first launched, but we're so much more than that now, and we're going to show you a little bit about that today. So you can tap into data engineering, analytics, AI, and application and collaboration workloads. Everything that Snowflake does boils down to 3 premises. So everything that we do needs to be easy, connected, and trusted. But what does that actually mean? When we say easy, we're a fully managed platform. So that just means that we're enabling you to get that time to value as quickly as possible. We abstract all of that complexity away, so you don't need to do things like infrastructure management, don't need to do things like configuration. We take care of the heavy lift for you. Secondly, we keep the lights on for you. So we maintain and push maintenance and upgrade and patches every 2 weeks on the platform so that you are constantly on without you having any downtime on the platform. All of this is so that we can allow developer productivity to go through the roof, and then you start to actually get more value-focused work out of your business. Connected. So again, a big premise that we believe in is that the more data that you have, or the more data that you have your fingertips to, the better that your business can run. We talk about connected in a couple of different ways. So first is global collaboration. Like I mentioned, having access to more data to enrich your first-party data makes your life so much easier. Get the information that you need straight from the experts. For example, every insurer uses weather data, right? So why are we trying to figure that out ourselves? Let's go straight to the experts with people like WeatherSource LLC and Met Office, where we can actually go and get that information directly from Snowflake Marketplace without you having to actually ingest that. It's ready to go with no ETL required. Secondly is business continuity. So I'm sure we've seen in the news the AWS and Azure outages we had a couple of weeks ago. On Snowflake, because we are cross-cloud and cross-region, you can actually have and build in that business continuity into your business plan. So you can have multiple regions that you can automatically fail over if one of your regions goes down, for example, and you're up and running, continuing to work as it is, because Snowflake works exactly the same on every single underlying CSP. This also goes into the fact that we're cloud agnostic and we work all over the world. We know insurance is a massively global business, but for things like GDPR, you need to make sure your data is in certain regions. So we allow you to do that kind of thing. And finally is trusted. So Horizon is what we call our security and governance umbrella term for all of our services out of the box. This gives you a full enterprise-grade end-to-end solution with things like role-based access control, things like dynamic data masking, things just security and privacy policies just built in outside the box. In addition, whenever you sign up to Snowflake, you automatically subscribe to one of our availability zones, which means you have at least 3 copies of that data in each region. So should something happen to one of those buildings, for example, you've still got 2 other copies that you can run off. So we have high availability out of the box. And finally, we allow you to publish data products or data assets on our marketplace, but that also means you can tap into other products that people have put on that platform. So whether that's things for FinOps or security or even optimizations on the platform. All of that is part of our Horizon catalog. I'm not a fan of slides, so I thought I would actually try and bring something to life for you. So we're going to dive into a quick demo. So what we're going to show you is something called Snowflake Intelligence. So I'm sure a lot of you have used your ChatGPTs, your Geminis, when you're faced with just a text box and you kind of intuitively know exactly what to use. So how can we actually apply this to our data within our organizations? So for example, let's imagine that I'm a claims handler and I want to know how many claims are still under review. I can go ahead and ask Snowflake Intelligence. So this means I can ask how many claims are still under review, and you'll start to see Snowflake Intelligence starts to do some thinking. So it starts to say, how can I actually go ahead and answer that question based on the information that I have in Snowflakes today? So this is tapping into something that we call Cortex. So Cortex is what we call our AI products within the platform. And we're actually tapping into a few services here that we're going to go through a little bit slowly today. So currently you can see that there are 37 claims under review. But how can I actually trust that that's the correct answer? So I can actually click into here and look at the details and actually start to understand how Snowflake got to that conclusion. So I can even see that the SQL, the underlying SQL that it executed in order to get to that answer. So if I'm an analyst that knows SQL, it gives me that extra level of security that I know exactly that that's the right answer. So maybe I want to tap into this a bit more. So how are those claims actually distributed throughout the year? With a BI dashboard, for example, you might be able to see how many open claims there are, but you might not be able to drill in to find the answer that you actually want to find. So we can actually tap into some of our custom tooling or our out-of-the-box tooling that we have in Snowflake Intelligence and actually start to visualize those things. So what we like to kind of call AI BI. So how can we use AI to actually start to visualize these responses? So I can start to see this is how my claims are distributed throughout the year. And not only does Snowflake Intelligence come back with our visualization, it also does a little bit of reasoning, a little bit of rationale. Why might those patterns be existing? Is there a seasonal pattern, there are annual trends? This is the kind of thing that starts to give you a little bit more of a rounded picture as you get access to more data within your platform. For example, as well, I might want to then tap into which customers have actually claimed for floods, something like that. Again, Snowflake will go through the process of analyzing that request and identifying which service under the hood it needs to tap into. So for this example, we're actually looking at a structured table. So we're using something called Cortex Analyst. So Cortex Analyst allows you to marry up business terminology with how our data is stored and actually seamlessly connect those bits of information together. So I can start to see exactly which customers have open water damage claims. And the thing I wanted to highlight here, our role-based access control flows all the way through to Snowflake. So if I don't have access to the emails, for example, we can make all of these fields masked so that you won't be able to actually see that information. So you only know that the right people have access to the right information at the right time. Finally, I might want to actually go ahead and look how much can actually be claimed for flooding, just because I might be on a call with a customer. So how much can they actually go ahead and claim against their policy? So this is how we tap into unstructured data using a service called Cortex Search. And you'll see it's come back with some information, but also has actually cited that information. So within my policy wording document, it actually says I can claim around £25,000. And I can actually click into that and have a look where that came from. So I can start to see exactly where in that unstructured PDF that information has come from. So I believe I'm running out of time. So this is kind of what I showed you today, a very high-level overview. Because we don't have a lot of time today, if you want to tap into this a little bit further, we can actually see you on the booth. We're directly in the back wall over there with EY. So if you'd like to go into this in a little bit more depth, feel free to come down. But hopefully you enjoyed that and that made some sense. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, if you can make your way now to the breakout, so about to begin. Yeah.
If we've got a box of merch that they need to be picked up from here,
Yep.
where do I, what
Cole,
name?
just give it to Cole.
Can I get this? Okay. Right.